Hello, hashtag We Gamma Math. I want to celebrate each and every one of you all for your hard work thus far. One ticket item that I have before we get started with some celebrations is we're going to have to work through this exit ticket tracker this week in a different way. So as we go down, I'm going to give you some examples of how we can do it because I do know that some of you all might not be doing head-on lessons for Eureka and it might be more of a spiral review. So we'll talk about that. But jumping into my data, so let's look at the math team data. Our latest assessment was sixth grade, mid module four, and I couldn't wait any longer. It was only 86 students in, but we had a lot of students that needed to just wrap up. So Mr. Williams and Brian are going to handle that when they come back. I did not want a sub to actually give that. And so right now we have 75.6% in the green. So let's give them a round of applause. And moving on, we had some great things happen in our upper school. I told you that this week I was going to be spending a lot of time in our upper school. So it was a pleasure to sit in seventh and eighth grade classes and just pop in, pop out, see a lot of things going on. A couple things I want to spotlight. Allison is now doing an exit ticket mastery by class where she puts up the percentages and have the students compete against one another. She also is using whiteboard check 1212 to have students check in before she released them to stations to see if they understand. So it's just another way to engage the students. And last but not least, seventh grade whiteboard anchors for intervention stations with Miss Robinson. You see that in the back where students get to see exactly what they need to be successful and some examples of how to complete the problem. And last but not least, we did, and we'll talk about that, a reboot. And pretty much the next day, Jabril was taking a stab at pulling a small group with our lower performing students in the middle of stations happening around them. So it was a very noisy day for Miss Robinson, but it was awesome and it was great to see. So we're gonna see what's the impact of all of these different activities, and we'll be talking about that in our O3s this week. Another shout out I want to send to all of our support team, Brian Smith and Darden. They attended Reboot. They were all connected. They were all paying attention, pushing forward and signing and leaving with commitments. Brian, you still owe me a picture of your commitment, but I'll be getting that shortly. We did a lot of great things. We just talked about what it means to be a teacher, what steps we need to put in place, but we push it even further about what can we do starting next week to help our students achieve mastery and push ourselves as leaders. So we began our student conferences. I started with Durden as my model student, and then he was able to also replicate with me. And Smith and Brian, you all are next in my line to do a model, as well as I'll work alongside with you when we pull our students. So this was the exit ticket exemplar I was talking about for IA3 week. I do know that sometimes we're not teaching full out lessons because we just don't have the time, and that's okay. So I did an example of two scenarios that I think might play the most in our classrooms this week. One is where we circle back over percentages that are low based on exit ticket data or even the IA3 data, which is going to be coming pretty soon. So I went back to my 123. Notice when I started, I had 56%, but now after I've respiraled, I have 79.5%. But I took it a step further. I put in the date to show that I am going back. I put to C123 for that updated data. And then I just put on what was my focus that might have been different from the initial misconception based on the new data I received. So this is one way we can attack the exit ticket tracker. Also, what if I'm doing multiple TEKs that day because a lot is going on and there's different stations? Well, that's great. We can also lump some things too if we have to, so that we're not doing a lot of different entries, and we can see how students progressed with that as well, and we can fill it out just like we did. But make sure that when you get to the part where you focus on the misconceptions, that you do break up the misconceptions because they should be different based on the TEK. So just make sure that you gauge how you're going to use that. It could either be the contractor, Imagine Math, Zern lesson, however you try to remaster it. Capture how the students are progressing towards mastery. That could be their tracker. That could be completion of a lesson that was aligned. So many different ways. Be creative, but make sure that you are honing in on the impact of what you did for that day and not just doing something. Now, this is where we get a little more in depth. We're going to be having mini O3s with Russo and Robinson, just a quick check-in, and I'm going to give you the form, complete that form, and then we'll discuss it in a 10-minute check-in. For 6th and 8th, it's going to be a little different. We're probably going to have 1 to 2 meetings with you all. The O3 forms are attached here, and so you can see what that meeting is going to look like. And I know that it's a lot, but based on the data for 6th and 8th and your goals, I want to make sure that I'm at least trying to set you up for success. Now, how we get there, how we navigate this, and how we look at our goals, whether we think they're unrealistic or not, my goal as a coach is to push you to your best. So whatever that might be, we're going to work together. So be prepared to plan for the next 2 weeks. Be prepared for me to try to spend 2 to 3 hours a week just supporting you, whether it's push in, small group, co-teach, and then also these exit ticket WDMs with the data dive, as well as your IA3. So let's talk about this. It is going to get a little deep, but for 5th and 7th, for now, for the next 2 weeks, I plan on being removed from you all just a little bit so that I can focus in on our 6th and 8th, because traditionally that data has been the lowest for our IA2s, IA3s, and IA1s. So keep pushing. Let's stamp our mission to provide students with the opportunity to excel academically by building critical thinking skills and utilizing research-based practices to ensure that all students receive an equal and ample opportunity to learn. I want you to realize that you wrote this on day one. You believed in your students on day one. Don't lose faith in your mission. Let's keep pushing forward. Hashtag We Gamma Math. And yes, I will be taking you to the field soon so we can see how far we've progressed through the semester and to see how much further we have to get to that finish line, if you remember. So get those towels ready. We will be walking the field because we still have a little more to go. Keep pushing. Keep being great. You all are awesome.